Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Today on the show, I interview Bénédicte Verley. We learned all about her journey from running a successful photography business in the States to leading retreats in India to rediscovering herself and what it means to connect. She now runs a beautiful retreat house in France, just outside of Paris, Lavender House. We talk all about her journey and much more. So welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you so much. I am doing really well. I'm really thrilled to be here and looking forward to chatting with you.
It was fantastic to meet you the other day at our little tea party with Amanda. I mean, there's so many great people in Paris. And I was like, oh, this woman is fascinating. I need to interview her.
Oh, I had the same. It was so wonderful. And just, a whole group of women that are just inspiring and doing what they love. And that was a really gift for me to be there.
Definitely. And I always like to go back to the beginning of people's lives. So you grew up in a family steeped in art, architecture, spirituality. What did creativity feel like for you at your childhood at home?
For me, creativity, we were constantly, this was like pre-iPhone and all of, the social media stuff, but it was really, a wonderland of pure creativity. Our parents were not around. We were given free rein of the whole neighborhood on our bikes. I remember creating writing plays, and we would act them out. And then, at the end of the week, we would perform it for our parents and putting music and, singing our own songs that we made up. And so creativity was really, I was so steeped in it. And it's amazing because even if I look back now, that's really where it started. And I remember when I was 15 or 16, my dad got me a camera for my birthday, and I loved it so much. And that was during film. So we would dress up and take pictures of each other and create these little story taglines, and we loved it. And it was this is how it actually really started for me. Just this out of nothing, out of this wonder and sort of play, creativity just was born. In these funny little plays, in these dances, entering talent contests for dance and gymnastics. And, all of these things were an amazing base for me. And my parents were really, it was the time when parents just let their kids do whatever. So we were free to roam and do whatever we wanted to do.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like my childhood. We were just running the streets and we would
exactly.
It was fun.
It was really fun.
My dad had a giant camcorder. My mom would film us doing our terrible dances, doing our own hair and makeup in too many clothes. It was fun,
That is the best. It's it's awesome when it's too much. I love it.
Yeah, it was a good times. So it sounds like your mother had a deep spiritual influence on you. Talk a little bit about how that shaped the way you see the world today.
My mom, I'm sure she was actually at one point invited to become a professor of theology. And my father, there were 9 kids in our family, so my father was working a lot and was not much around. But my mom, this offer was a huge sort of honor for her, but she actually never took it because there was too much to take care of, raising 9 children. And I always felt like, had she been able to go and pursue that, what would have happened? And I feel like I'm taking the reins a little bit because so much of my journey has been about sort of being available to this invisible inspiration, into this invisible sort of taste of something bigger than myself, in sort of just staring at the sky, in feeling this inspiration that just comes without any reason at all. And, when I was younger, I grew up Catholic, and I was also very curious about Judaism. And I asked my mom, I want to know what Judaism is and what's the difference. And so she gave me books by Chaim Potok. And then I said, I want to become a Jew. And then she said, okay, let's keep going then, And then I got older and it was like, I don't want to be a Jew. I want to be a Buddhist. So she gave me books on Buddhism. And then it went on and on. And then when I was at university, I had a minor in religious studies. And so she was really my first huge guide and huge mentor and teacher as far as just really seek and search and don't stop until you find what you're really looking for. And that brought me to India, which, at the same time, I was running a really successful photography business and working nonstop 7 days a week. And so I would work like crazy for 6 months, and then I would take off and go to India for 6 months and just be in silence and in meditation and doing different groups. And it was the absolute perfect rejuvenation. And so that was really from my mom, this sort of quality of seeking and searching and looking deeper into things, into the nature of why am I here? What is my purpose? And I think that was also reflected in my artwork.
Yeah, talk more about that. I mean, like you said, you built a very successful photography career.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what drove you during those years? And then later you transitioned. We can talk about that later. But what was the driving factor? Was it like getting to India and getting to relax again?
At the beginning, not at all. I mean, it was initially when I started this company, Studio 3 Photography, in Providence, Rhode Island. It really was like, the thrill of it was growing a business and seeing that how it worked and making mistakes and then finding out what was working. And that was actually the thrill for me, to sort of see what does it mean to own a business, to run a business. And it started off very small. And I was doing fashion photography before that. And so a friend asked me to shoot a wedding, and I said, there's no way, I'll never ever shoot a wedding. I'm an artist. I had like an attitude then. and then she kept asking me, and I said, if you give me free rein to do whatever I want, I'll shoot your wedding. And she said, okay, we're on. And so I really approached it in the same way that I would approach a fashion shoot. And the images were really beautiful. And then a magazine wanted them. And then that one thing led to the other. And I just was fully in it and started hiring more people, more shooters to shoot with me. And then those shooters became also shooting their own weddings from my company on their own. And one thing, it just kept snowballing, getting bigger and bigger. And I was doing really well financially. I had really amazing friends. I had amazing clients, but there was something in me that was really longing for something more. And I didn't know what that was. And I realized I was looking for that connection with this something that felt nourishing, that felt inspiring, that felt like this is why I'm here. So it was something much deeper than even creating photography. And that's initially what brought me to India. And it changed my whole life.
Yeah. So for 10 years, you were living between your career and your spiritual path. Talk about, was there any tension there between India and then coming back to your normal life?
It was amazing. The opposite is true. It was actually when I had difficult clients, because I had been doing so much centering and meditation, all of a sudden it was easy. And I could talk with these people in a way, and they ended up becoming really even more loyal clients. And seeing when something was going wrong, I would really tune into them in this human way and just say, is something going on? What's happening? And just being available in much more than just a professional capacity, really as a human to human. And before, I'd always kept it as, this is my client, I'll do this work for them, and that's it. And then going to India, it made it much more clear how interconnected we all are as humans, and that what really matters is love and sincerity and authenticity. And it made my work explode even more. I mean, it was crazy. And my clients loved me and I loved them. And it just, my work was also much more effortless because I didn't go into it with this busy mind and this planned mind that I used to have. Practicing meditation and doing all these different groups, it really helped me to be much more spontaneous and to see things in a fresh way that I didn't have before.
Yeah, it sounds like all small business owners should be doing India retreats
Oh
and
my God,
meditation.
amazing. And my clients, even the staff who worked for me, like just the most simple act of saying, I could see one of my clients, she's amazing. She was always exhausted and she would always get there really early. And I said, do you want to come in later? Like, are you sleeping enough? Just taking this little care to make sure that she was okay. And she completely changed her whole schedule. And for me, it was totally fine because I didn't need to have her there at 9 a.m. So she would come at 2 p.m. She would stay until 7, 8 at night. And then for someone else, they wanted to arrive at 4 a.m. I said, perfect. Like, it was just, everything sort of became much more organic. And we really allowed each person who worked with us to thrive in the way that they needed to thrive. And so the work became better. We had more and more people who wanted to work with us. And yeah, I think it's the best thing to just approach it in this much more holistic way.
Yeah, in a more human way instead of just being robots.
Which is so exhausting.
And oh my gosh, yeah, especially in today's world. And you describe a spontaneous awakening in 1999. Can you talk about what that experience was like?
Yeah, I mean, this was a really intense moment in my life. I'd split up with my really first big love, and I was really at a point of, do I want to stay with photography? Do I want to go to meditation only? Do I want to do retreats? I mean, I was really just completely in this deep surrender, not knowing about anything. And I found myself walking in India and I felt as though I was disappearing. I felt like the whole world was disappearing. And at this point, I was not speaking much. I was mostly in silence for like months at a time. And just, in meditation, dancing, doing active meditations, really watching. And I was looking at how my mind worked, how my mind would immediately judge things or prefer certain things, or it was like this little dictator on my shoulder just saying like, this is good, this is bad. And then when I started to really question it, all of a sudden it became really quiet. And it was really in that quietness that I felt everything was shifting and disappearing. And I remember going to a friend and I said, I think I must have cancer because I really feel like I'm dying. I don't know what it is, but it was really that panic of dying. And then I could hear my teacher in my head just saying, watch, just watch it. Don't do anything. Don't try to stop it. Don't try to add on to it. Just watch. And it was really in this watching, I was really going through this, it felt like a cyclone of darkness, and every terrible situation, everything that was so overwhelming had come to surface as if to be sort of looked at and acknowledged and recognized. And then I really saw, oh my God, these are just thoughts. These are just ideas. This is my mind. And it was the first time that I recognized the difference between my being and this much bigger seeing and my mind. And I realized, oh my God, my mind is used for this certain specific task, but I don't need it to run my life. And it was like from that point on, just everything changed. My family didn't recognize me and they said, oh my God, are you on drugs? What have you done? We want to decondition you. And it was like, wow, this is the best drug I've ever taken, which is not a drug, and it'll never go away. And they were really freaked out. And then they said, let's have a psychological, because I was really serious and depressed before, really driven, making money. Just my focus was really outward. And then this transformation really changed everything. It brought this light in, this playfulness, this love, this boundlessness. I felt connected to everything. And even when it first happened, I really couldn't move for like 10 days. I was just in awe. It was just this strange, mystical awe. And I was just overwhelmed by how beautiful life is and how perfect life is. And I realized every difficult experience that I'd ever gone through was a gift. And it was just that I couldn't see it before. And so a deep gratitude, a deep bowing down to life happened. And yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible. That reminds me of Elizabeth Gilbert's experience when she was in the ashram and she just like exploded.
exactly.
Like she writes about it kind of like what you're
Oh my
talking about
God.
right
It
now. It's
was,
like I'm a part of
yeah, it
everything.
was crazy. It was crazy. You know, it's a funny thing. I was writing all about my experience, and so many friends, I thought this would be so cool as a film. And so many friends said, put it out there. And I was just so lazy, and I was just sort of living my life moment to moment, not caring, about if I got this out.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the film, I was like, fuck, I was too late for this. She's telling my story. So it was wild.
Yeah, that's incredible to have that experience. I think we all dream of knowing something like that. But like you said, we're all so tied up in our mind and our problems and our past problems, our new problems, our now
Yeah.
problems. So that's a pretty incredible
Yeah.
experience.
It was amazing. I mean, that's actually when I started sort of opening up retreats and sharing with people, experimenting with the things that I was experimenting with at that time that really sort of opened up the world to me. And so much of it is through creativity. So much of it is through, connecting to that inner landscape that I can only access when I'm really silent, when I'm really quiet. So a lot of my retreats, there's a period where we're in silence. And then there's a period where there's writing, where there's dancing, where there's singing. And also just about really like telling the truth about what's really going on, really sharing the beauty, sharing also the shit, sharing it all. And I think it brings us closer to
Yeah,
these experiences of like wonder, of this oneness.
I love that. Yeah, no, this is what I'm preaching all the time. I mean, I feel like creativity and art and things like that is the fastest way to now and the flow states and being here. So it's so beautiful to hear you talk about it. And I know a lot of people dream about walking away from a successful business that maybe isn't working for them anymore, but out of fear they don't. So how, I guess you had no choice but this decision after this awakening?
I could not go on anymore. I just couldn't do it. And I ended up just, a friend said, what do you want to do now? I said, what I really want, I just want to move to Italy. And then they said, why don't you do it? And I had so much money saved up. And then I ended up just sort of closing out my contracts with giving them to other photographers. And I left for 5 years, and it was just the biggest gift I could have ever given myself. And we lived off of that money for, 5 years. And then I got pregnant, and it was time to come back and make money again. And so I started again shooting events, shooting corporate work, shooting portraits, but only by myself. I didn't want to be managing 7 or 8 other photographers and their work. So it was just much more scaled down, and it was really beautiful. So the work came again. And at the same time, I was going to India and continuing with retreats. And yeah, it was really, really beautiful, really rich.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely sounds incredible, just going off to Italy for 5 years and hanging out and not
It
working.
was amazing.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And so what did you gain in the space that opened after letting it go, letting your business go? Was there anything that you gained in that space?
I realize, like looking back now, I gained absolute freedom for sure. I gained this sort of understanding that it's not always necessarily about the money. And for me, like that was the main point of having this thriving business. I thought that the money equaled freedom. And for me, it was really much more about this inner freedom that I was wanting to experience more of. But looking back, I don't think I would have, I don't think I necessarily needed to stop the business altogether. I think there would have been a very beautiful way to sort of keep it going while not having to be there all the time. But I wasn't in the headspace at that time. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it sounds like it all worked out anyway.
It always works out. I mean, that's the amazing thing. I feel like life is always sort of guiding. And sort of making it clear when I'm there listening. If I'm quiet enough to listen and find the way, it just happens on its own, which is so nice.
So many creatives feel torn between ambition and alignment. What would you say to someone navigating that?
I think that you have to allow yourself to explore. And I think until you have that quiet, that interior, I think the creativity really comes from that interior expansion. The most, the most creative the most creative I felt was when I had those spaces of silence, of just expansion, of just listening rather than forcing something to happen. I feel like it's in those spaces that creativity has this possibility to flow through us. I think more
Yeah.
of creativity is more this, it's happening all around us, and it's more that we need to make ourselves available to hear it or to receive it or to, capture it.
I completely agree. And it sounds like you kind of already answered this, but how can artists create from a place of presence rather than pressure?
I mean, if you can try through pressure, it just never works and it feels terrible. Um, I think that presence is the base. You need to have that. It's like before you start shooting with a camera, you need to know the camera inside and out before you start working with it. Before you start painting, you need to know how the paints work with each other, what you have to do with the canvas before you start. I think you need to know certain things before you even begin. And getting quiet enough within yourself is really important. And that could actually be through bike riding, through running, through tapping into something that's much bigger than ourselves so that creativity can flow through.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't have to be painting or writing. There's so many ways to be creative. It's just a matter of finding what you
Yeah,
love.
absolutely. And I think that when you're a creative, when you're an artist, whatever you do is going to be creative. If you take that task, if you take that, making a meal, preparing a table, when creativity can pour out in every single thing you do, writing an email, um, preparing a dinner for your family or for friends, working in a garden, what will you plant next to each other? I think there's creativity in everything.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think so many artists who are doing like what we consider like like what we think of as art, like painting or drawing or writing a book or whatever. I think so many of them struggle with like, okay, I want to do what I want to do, but I also have to pay my
Yeah.
bills. Like, what do you say to those people?
Yeah, that is a tricky one. I mean, because I was absolutely in that position when I started. I had to make money. That's one of the reasons I started shooting weddings, but I wanted to shoot it in a way that was at the highest level that I could do it, with integrity, with a kind of creativity. So it's also like, even when I shoot for a corporate company, I'll look at their website and there's always something creative that I can infuse into it so that it doesn't look like every other corporate website, and that the portraits are actually really beautiful, that they would want those photos even at home, So I think it's in the way you do it. And I think that also we have to make money. So that inspiration also comes through. Like sometimes you get this crazy idea, like, oh my God, this would be so amazing. Follow it. That's the moment to follow it, because then something can come out of it. When I had this idea, I'm going to contact this company. They have terrible photos and I'm going to offer to shoot that for free. And if they like it, they can pay me the full amount. And it worked so many times. And that's actually how I started. It was amazing.
That's so smart. Yeah, I think a lot of photographers, when they come to me, I say the same thing, like volunteer for organizations, like get your name out there, because then when they see the work, they come back to
Absolutely.
you.
And if they like you and they connect with you and you bring something that's unusual, like a spark of brilliance, yeah, it's going to fly then.
So now you've journeyed into guiding others. What do people often come to you searching for?
I think many come because they feel the weight of the world. They feel depressed. They feel stuck. They've lost that joy. And so sometimes, there are different groups that we do. Some of them are sort of the basis therapy. And so we go into this deeper sort of dark places. And sometimes you need to actually just understand, and feel and go through something completely to allow the light to come in. And then it's bringing really this celebration, this creativity, this trust in life again. And to also recognize wow, this thought, this repetitive thought that keeps gnawing at me is just a thought. And then it's also creating new routines that inspire something more beautiful and positive to come through. So it's also discipline. I think discipline is an enormous strength, and you need it. You need to have this discipline to start to create a new base outside of the base that maybe brings this misery or this pain or this suffering.
Completely. Yeah, definitely. And discipline is hard for a lot of us.
Definitely.
Especially when it comes to facing our own brains.
Absolutely.
So what do you think people really need right now beneath the surface?
I think what people are craving right now is actually connection. I think people are craving this connection, this touch, this being real with each other, this vulnerability and being authentic. And I really feel like it's coming together as a community. I mean, that's the main direction where I'm going right now, is creating these experiences in community, bringing, 20 people together that have never met. And at the end, when there's this intimacy, there's this sharing, people become so close. Nobody wants to leave. It's amazing. And then they share that in their world, with their friends, with their family. And I feel like it starts with each of us to really discover that point in us that needs healing, that needs to come back to life. And, with the groups that I'm doing, the groups I'm sure that you're doing, there are so many amazing retreats happening out there, and to find those that really bring something genuine and transformative.
Definitely. I think we're all craving connection more than ever right now with all this internet and AI. And I mean, people just are running into you on the street because they're all in their heads. We need to come back to earth. So creating these experiences is what it's all about. And talk a little bit about your retreats at Lavender House. You're just outside of Paris.
It's so crazy because I've done so many different retreats, and all of them were, deep exploration, transformation. And then I felt like I want to have summer camp at my house. I want it to be spiritual and soulful, but I want it to be like summer camp where you have bonfires and you meet new people that become your friends, and maybe you even fall in love. And there's this exploration of intimacy, in telling stories about yourself, sharing secrets, sharing, who you are and what you're interested in. And within all of that depth work, to bring also this playfulness of, exploring the masks that we wear and playing them as a theater production. So, and dancing and live music. And so I want to bring this experience of camp for adults, this summer. And so that's what I'm working on right now. That's really fun.
I love it. Camp for adults.
Soul camp.
That sounds great. Yeah, soul camp. You got it. So what does a creative life mean to you now?
It's funny. I think now it's so, if I were to look back and see myself as an adult, I would probably think that my life looks much slower than I would have imagined, but it really is like taking the time to really be present and to, no matter what I'm doing, be it cleaning the bathroom, pouring love into whatever I'm doing, be it ironing sheets, be it dancing to some new music that I just discovered. So it's really following this natural impulse of what wants to happen. Sometimes if I'm frustrated about something with my partner or my son, and really just allowing myself the space to stop and to really look at it and to feel it. And sometimes I need to just, I'm pissed off and I need to dance. So I put on music and I just go into the basement and I just let it all come out. So it's really like being present to whatever wants to, express itself.
Yeah, accepting it, moving through it, and moving on, like knowing, just calling out the emotion. Yeah. And if someone listening feels disconnected from themselves, where is one gentle place they can begin? Is there any practice we can begin with today?
I think one of the most beautiful practices is really allowing yourself to just love yourself, whatever you're going through. And if whatever is there, if it's sadness, if it's tears, to just give yourself space where you feel safe, put on some really sad music, allow yourself to cry your tears out, move your body. In my practice, I have an online group that I'm running right now. And one of the main things we do every day, it's just part of the sort of building up of this base of a new way of living. We have writing every morning. So it's, the Artist's Way, Julia Cameron.
Yes, of course. Exactly. The morning pages.
So morning pages. We do morning pages every day. We also do 7 minutes of silence every day. I record a different meditation each week, or just, they can sit in silence. They don't have to listen to anything. And it's also dancing when there's frustration and sort of sensing like when that frustration is there, and just in that moment, taking the length of one song and just letting it out, through movement. So there, it depends on who, each of us are so different. So it really, when I have a group or when I start working with people, I really get to know them, because one thing will work for one person, but it may not work for another person. So it's really seeing where somebody's at. And sometimes people do need much deeper therapeutic work, and others sometimes need just a little push of inspiration. So
yeah, it's just going with what your body's telling you and finding ways to heal.
Exactly.
I think that's a beautiful note to end on. And tell people more about Caravan of Bliss, your community, your retreats. Where can people connect?
So you can connect by logging on to www.caravanofbliss.org. And it gives a little bit of my story of how I came to do this work, the retreats that we're doing. I used to bring people to India, and we would do 21-day silent retreats. I think this day and age, most people don't have 21 days. So I'm doing those kinds of smaller week-long retreats in France and also in Italy. And we're also creating community online. So for me, it feels just like it's urgent at this point, because the world is at such a crazy turning point. And I feel like the old world is sort of breaking down, and the new creators are here to breathe in something more inspiring and something new that is much closer to a healthy environment and healthy connections and healthy relationship with our bodies, with others.
Yeah, we need it more than ever right now. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, and we'll share all of that in the show notes, and I can't wait to see what you'll do next.
Thank you so much, Crystal. This was really amazing. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.